What's up, guys? This is Werewolf ELG and I am back for another video. So today we're going to be looking at the entire story of Burst of Power, as well as sort of giving an analysis of it. So let's go ahead and get into the video. So it's been a while, as usual. We're just going to move on. There's just been a bunch of life stuff sort of happening that has definitely, gotten in the way of me making videos. So let's go ahead and just hop into the video here. So the story for Burst of Power is actually pretty awesome. And we're going to be going sort of into an in-depth look into the story of it. So if you look at the prologue, it sort of gives us the background of what we need to know about this universe. So the overworld, a world that holds the bullet bursts together and keeps it in balance, has fallen into chaos. And so we get the sort of, our main people here, which is Gloggle and Raylene, right? So I'll let you go ahead and read that there. But it allows us to look at Gloggle and Raylene as characters, and sort of set up that story. Let's go into episode 2. So in episodes, in arc 1, there's not too much of an actual story. Like, there's a little bit more of the background. So, kind of looking at it, Gloggle has sent minions, and then there's a secret episode and stuff like that. A bunch of stuff like this for the gateways. And so there's different gateways, and that'll kind of get into arc 2 when we take a look at that. But it seems as though for these secret episodes, some people have come from a gateway into the overworld. The overworld seems to be where Raylene is from and Gloggle is from. And that's sort of the main world, if you will, of the bullet universe. So if we take a look at episode 3, so the arc 1 is mainly about the Sentinels of Gloggle. So Sentinel of Gloggle proves to be too much for Raylene. She escapes into the world of Legends Within. So now we've come from the overworld into the first world, which is Legends Within, which obviously has both Rizzo and Rizona in it. Which is where eventually she does go ahead and recruit them. But so there's Gloggles, there's the Sentinels, there's minions, and then, the Satrons. Satrons are obviously the evil group, the main sort of enemy that we face in Burst of Power most of the time. And there's a bunch of different types of them. I'm going to go into a separate video. We'll go ahead and continue on with that. So she goes into the world of Legends Within. She fights a Sentinel, and some Satrons and whatnot. And then she goes back to the overworld now with Rizzo and Rizona. Once the crew there comes back, it says here the Sentinel has been defeated, but its power has been divided between the remaining Sentinels. So the other Sentinels have gotten stronger now. If they wish to defeat the remaining Sentinels in Gloggle, they need to become stronger. So this is sort of their training montage moment right here. And then, from the training, they are now able to take on the Grand Satron. One-on-one battle. They defeat that Satron. And then they go Sentinel hunting, exactly what it says there. So they go on to, hunt for more Sentinels. And then eventually Gloggle does arrive. So he appears. He only has 3 remaining Sentinels who have inherited more of his power, right? So each time a Sentinel falls, the other Sentinels become stronger. So on and so forth. And then, that happens, and then the first arc ends, right? So Gloggle is defeated, Peace will return to the overworld. How long will it take, but for how long, so on and so forth. So the first arc is sort of meant to be just sort of this this power scaling arc, right? We meet Raylene and Gloggle, the two main protagonists and antagonists of Bursts of Power. There's some dimensional hopping, but it really kind of picks up into Arc 2. So if we go into Arc 2, right, now, this time now, that's, this is where it gets into the main thing. So if we go back, it says our heroes have defeated Gloggle and all the Sentinels, or did they, right? So now we have the actual story. So let's go ahead and get into the cutscenes here. Fun fact, you can actually move these around. I did not know that at all. So we see Raylene, what we're going to assume is in the overworld, just training, doing her thing. And then someone comes to visit, which is obviously our main man. I don't know how you say his name, because I always mess up his name. I always call him Lionel or something. I don't know. So he appears, and they have a little fight here. We have no idea who he is at this point, but they go ahead and do their battle. The next slide here, they're fighting, and obviously this dude is just sort of randomly kind of walked up to her and it's like, hey, let's fight, basically. And again, we still have no idea who this dude is, taunting Raylene and everything else like that. So if we move on to the next one here, now we sort of get to see more of his motive, right? So there you go. So he's looking for information about Gloggle's Sentinels, which all the Sentinels are obviously gone from the Arc 1 because, Raylene has taken them on. Apparently we just, we learn that one of them has escaped, and obviously this dude just started fighting us, so we're not going to trust him, right? Raylene is very much, on the fence about this. I'll let you go ahead and, read this. So in Arc 1, when we defeated Gloggle, after we defeated Gloggle, the other Sentinel that was missing gained all of the power of the other Sentinels at this point. And we still have no idea who this dude is, right? So at this point, this is something interesting. So it says, let's just say I'm like you and leave it at that. For now go find your Sentinel at Gateway 105. So he knew where the Sentinel was, right? So he's already ready to do this, and he looks like he's gonna go off into a different little island there. But Gateway 105 isn't very important because that's going to tell us what world we're gonna be sort of seeing next, if you will. So we did that. We go into the next one here, and this is Gateway 105, right? So all the Satrons are coming out, and we kind of have to go through them all, which Raylene does, and then we find that last Sentinel, which is this guy. I forget his name. I know he has a name, but he's the most powerful Sentinel now because he gained all the power from the other Sentinels. Now, there's also reference, for Raylene as a young one, and you'll see this more as we continue on. I don't know how young she actually is. I would assume she's, 20, but at this point we see that the guy that we met earlier was telling the truth, and so there you go, we found the lost Sentinel. So they battle, and let's go into the next one here. Oh, same one. This one. There we go. There we go. So they battle, got all the minions out of the way, right? I guess there's, and so, with this sentinel here, I guess there's no other way. I'm sorry, but I cannot let you live or let you have your way, so I'll deal with you myself. Little banner talk, right? And so then, there we go. So Raylene defeats this sentinel, and it looks as though after he's defeated, all the sentinels have been defeated as if they were locks, as if they were things keeping Gloggle away, and Gloggle actually appears. Now that he has been brought back by defeating all the other sentinels, which was actually keeping him at bay, which obviously no one knew at that time. So Gloggle easily overpowers Raylene, and then we have, the boy coming in, just absolutely demolishing this man and absorbing him. Now, at this point in the game, right, he's absorbing him just like the other Sentinels absorb the power of their fallen Sentinels, so it can be assumed that he's either a Sentinel or some way related to Gloggle. I'm really impressed that, Bullet actually put that in there, because obviously we learn later, Gloggle's affiliation with this guy here. So really, really neat point to put in for Raylene. So now, this is Gateway 105, and Arrows comes out of Gateway 105. So this world, right, we never get like a confirmed world for Gateway 105, but it is going to be assumed that is the Burst of Power Tap Trainer world, because that's where Arrows is first seen. That's the game where he first came out. He was supposed to be what was replacing Risotto, eventually the new power level warrior. But he comes out of Gateway 105. So it's either the Tap Trainer world, or it's the new power level warrior world. We don't know. But the first game that he does appear in is that Tap Trainer world. So I'm thinking it's probably that. So now we have Arrows. Okay. Going on to episode 2, if we look at the prologue here, so we kind of have some questions, with the last battle, Raylene witnessed Gloggle's power. Was it his real power? Who is this mysterious warrior? Lots of questions. So Raylene decides to go find some more allies, and she looks in the world of the power level warriors. So the power level warriors is an actual, I guess, maybe race or sort of status, if you will. So she enters this world and sees Rice getting attacked by Mistra, which obviously works out perfectly for the world. Now, at this point, there's not really more animations. It's a lot of talking text. So, the warrior Rice is defeated by the evil Mistra. Raylene decides to go and save him. And so she does. The weakened Mistra is defeated by the combined strength. So Mistra seems to be the main antagonist for the power level warrior burst. There was a lot of, I guess, debate, if Mirror, like Mirror Rosado was, or King Mad. If all of those, characters, the Prince and everything else like that, were affiliated with this. But no, Mistra is the main bad guy, right? So, there's that. So Raylene goes to recruit Rice, and then he's like, all right, cool, that's fine, but you have to do, you have to convince my siblings. And so then Risotto's like, okay, that's cool, but you're going to have to pass these tests, right? So they battle. Even though Rice does complete his challenge, Risotto is not, satisfied. So They challenge Raylene, all of them do. And then Raylene passes, of course, because she's far stronger. Mistress senses the battle from afar. And then she goes to the battlefield, right? They overpower Mistra. And then from this, so she does succeed in grabbing their spirit essence. And from this, she's able to summon mirror versions of, our main protagonist here to absorb their full spirit essence and make them stronger. So this is where the idea of mirrors come in. Now, that means Mir Risotto, as a character, came from Mistra, right? So Mistra was the one that spawned Mir Risotto. So obviously Mistra then would be more powerful. But obviously in like the final power level where Mir Risotto is like one of the most power-driven dudes. Like he's extremely powerful. So I find that funny. All right, so the heroes defeat Mistra. They defeat the mirror images, and then they go to fight Mistra. And then at the end, of course, they defeat them. From this, they now have... So, Arrows is there. They have, Rice, Risotto, and... why am I forgetting her name? Oh, no. I'm going to get hate. Risette. That's her name. Okay. So then they all go back to the overworld at this point, right? So then if we go to episode 3, Raylene with her companions are struggling to find the mysterious warrior. So he has been eluding them, and so she's trying to find this warrior. So if we go back here, this one has 19 pages. So I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible. So Raylene meets up with this mysterious warrior, right? And he's like, yeah, I need some help. And she's like, right. So you just defeated Gloggle, you absorbed this power, and you almost killed me, so no. He's like, it's not my desire to destroy anything. I was the apprentice of Gloggle. So at this point, we now get the name of Raylene's master, which is Lord Tweaker, right? So these 19 panels are actually very important for the story. So Tweaker was, her master. And then we also learn that Gloggle's apprentice was Erynyl. I forget. I can't really say that. Erynyl. Erynyl. I'm going to call him Erynyl. Who was destroyed, right, on the day that Gloggle destroyed Raylene's master. So the only reason that Raylene survived was because her master used her, his strength to teleport Raylene away. And so that is correct. He's saying that that's correct. And I'm going to call him Lynrel, right? Lynrel. Lynrel. So his name is Lynrel, or Lynri. I think that's an I. Lynri. We'll call him Lynri. So after that, right, so we learned that Lynri here was actually Gloggle's first apprentice, right? So this whole apprenticeship thing is actually very convoluted for the story, which is awesome that this has happened, So after that, we learn that these lords are actually deities, right? So if we go back to this right here, let's assume I believe you. Why the hell were you destroying the deities? So the deities are these lords, and there's a lot of different lords, right? So we also learn why these lords were here in the first place. So Gloggle wanted to gain entrance to the divine source. It says whoever manages to get it will be able to create, destroy, and reshape worlds. The deity lords served as a lock to the entrance, right? So by destroying the lords, they unlocked the entrance to the divine source. That being said, it's very much like the Sentinels. When the Sentinels die, right, they unlock more power, and when all the Sentinels die, Gloggle appears, right? Once all the Lords die, the ultimate power, the divine source appears, right? So we learned here that Gloggle is one of the locks, right? Because he is, again, I guess, a lord. So at this point, we learn that he is a lord. He's a deity. Gloggle is a deity. It's a safety mechanism to have all the lords, be like that. Apparently, he has found a way to get around it. So we learn at this point he's, able to get around that. So at this point, we learn, about all these lords and everything. Raylene is questioning Leinri here because she's like, I'm not as powerful as you. Why do you need my help? Like, none of us are as powerful as you. And we learn that when Leinri destroyed Gloggle earlier in the game, that was just a projection of his mind, to mess with us, essentially, right? So he sends projections from the divine realm to just make it easier for him to travel. But this time we learn that he's actually coming. Like, he's actually coming here to defeat us. So their plan is to get divine mastery. It's the only way that they could even stand a chance, and Leinri thinks that Raylene knows something about divine mastery, and then, she says that she doesn't. And so then, they go off and say that they're going to fight now, because Leinri thinks that Raylene knows something. So if we go back at this point, there is another lord who is named. I can't exactly remember. It might be, let's see, because I think it might be in a different passage. Here we go. Yep. So yes, you are correct, but I was his apprentice first. My name is Leinri. We were the ones who destroyed Lord Fastlook and his apprentice. So Lord Fastlook, right, is one of the, another one of these lords, and then he also had an apprentice. So it seems as though Gloggle and, or not Gloggle, Raylene and Leinri are the last apprentices of these great lords, of these divine, these deities. So it's really cool that there's a couple more names mentioned here, like Lord Fastlook. We had Lord Tweeter, we had Lord Gloggle, so a couple of these lords are still hanging around. So at the end, Leinri attacks, right? And there we go. Our heroes manage to fend off him somehow, right? Raylene is starting to remember some things about divine mastery, and so, they're trying to make their way over there. So it's an actual place where people could go to train, and so that's where they go. So then a bunch of satrons show up. They manage to defeat the Horde, and they reach the Path of Divinity. So this is the Path of Divinity. This is where you can achieve the divine mastery, So they look at some ancient texts to see how to obtain divine mastery, and Raylene is the only one able to do it. Like, she's barely even able to manage to make out, the words, right? So in this way, we are, we learn how we get divine mastery, right? So first way, it's the most common way, is that a master will pass it down to his or her apprentice, and thus the master forfeits their position as a lord. They forfeit their divine mastery and give it down to their apprentice. This is for the first apprentice, right? Only one apprentice can be granted this, right? So that's that. The second way is that it will be inherited. If the master dies, he will pass the gift of divine mastery to all of his apprentices, if he has any. So he has to actually have any. So that implies that there are lords that don't have divine mastery at all, which is actually pretty interesting, because obviously to be a lord, you have to be a deity. The first apprentice to gain appropriate maturity, wisdom, and is able to clear his heart of all ill intent will be able to awaken the ability. The other apprentices, however, will have to resort to obtaining it in the way described for the third way. So when he dies, it gives it to all of his apprentices, but the only one that can awaken it is someone pure of heart, essentially. And then the last one, the Path of Divinity. Any apprentice can attempt to walk the Path of Divinity. At the end of this dangerous journey, he or she may be able to obtain divine mastery, but only if he or she possesses a pure heart. Many have tried it, few have actually succeeded, and more have, died from it. So a lot of people have actually died from this, trying to obtain, the power of divine mastery. As Raylene studies the text, Lynri actually follows them in secret. His plan was to lose the battle in order to follow our heroes, and that was successful. So Lynri appears, they have their little squabble, and then they fight. Continuing on, Lynri just easily overpowers them, and he learns that he possesses all the traits to get divine mastery, except that he does not have a pure of heart. He goes into a fit of rage, and as Raylene is watching this, she finally starts to understand that he was tricked and manipulated by Gloggle, and that was what led him to here. So she finally begins to sort of understand and unlock sort of what is all happening here, right? So once Lynri calms down, they go at it again and they start fighting, except now Raylene accepts the challenge with this new understanding. So this is sort of a very big key moment here. So if we go to 9, right, so Raylene's determination grows with every clash, and then now she wants to stop Lynri from suffering. So now that she understands where Lynri is coming from, her pure heart, kind of overtakes her. And she's like, you know what, I want to help this guy. Even though this guy's tried to kill me a lot, I want to help. So at this point, at that point, once she makes that decision, she's got all the right traits. She's walked the path to divinity, and she gets divine mastery. So now it is no longer just Raylene, it is now Lord Raylene, because now she is a deity. So with this, Lynri is eventually defeated, and we continue on with the game here. So Lynri is defeated and left at the path of divinity. So the rest of the crew, all of the power level warrior people, all of the Raylene and Arrows continue to go and get Gloggle. So after the battle with Lynri, peace came. It was strange. It was only temporary. Now with divine mastery, Raylene, the ability to sense other people's true potential is what... Okay, so now that she has divine mastery, she can actually sense the true potential of each individual. And so from this, she's able to tell all of, the people, Rice, Rosado, Rysette, and Arrows, hey, you have way more power in you. And so they go off to train in episode 4 here, and they get their sort of final awakenings. Right, so after they train, so Gloggle arrives in the overworld to fulfill his plan of reaching the divine source. To make his presence known, he starts to destroy the gateways to other worlds. So, Gateway 105 and the other gateways to the other worlds now are, being destroyed. So the Legends Within crew, right? So Rizzo and Rizona, you know, Power Level Warrior, Rice, Risotto, you know, that all their stuff is getting destroyed right now, right? So if we go in here, this is the final bit of the story. So Gloggle and Raylene are fighting. Linery comes to help. Gloggle, you know, greets him and says, "All right, cool. I can give you the power of divine mastery now. We just have to go up to the realm of divinity, and we're good to go." Linery is like, "Yeah, that's cool. You can keep it." And you know, kind of mocks him a little bit, saying like master, you know, saying that he's not his apprentice anymore. Gloggle tries to defeat Linery, which, by the way, this is sort of a little weird thing. He just like pokes him on the head. This might also be him trying to give Linery the power of divine mastery, which in this panel we can see he already has. So both Linery and Raylene now have awakened the divine mastery. And we get an explanation. So, you know, Gloggle's like, "How did you do this?" And then he explains, "After Raylene defeated him, I lost the will to live. I started to walk around without even realizing. I found myself on the path of divinity. And then at the end of it, he awakened, you know, the divine mastery." So Gloggle, pissed off, as always, comes after both of those. And he says that for his plan, he wanted these two, Raylene and Linery, to become the final keys that he was supposed to destroy. So that's his workaround. He was going to have the apprentices become masters in order to unlock the way to the you know, divine path. So they defeat Gloggle. Oh, whoops, a little bit too far. 1 second. They defeat Gloggle, right? So the path to, you know, the divine source is now open, and Linery sort of executes his plan here to go and grab the source, right? So Raylene goes in to try and stop him. Everyone does. And this sort of bothered me a little bit with the story. So all of the crew, right? So Gate 105, Legends Within, the Power Level Warrior crew, all die, right? All of them die, except for Raylene. Which, I mean, in the Power Level Warrior universe, I definitely don't think would happen. If this was in the Power Level Warrior universe, like, the Power Level Warrior crew would just be mopping the floor with everyone. Like, they would just, like, flick them and they would die. But this is obviously in the Burst of Power universe. So, you know, saying that you're going to pay for this, and then Linery and Raylene go to battle. And at the end here, after defeating Linery, you know, now Raylene has absorbed essentially all the power of the lords and everything, right? So she has become the divine source. So she goes up to the divine source, and this is where sort of the story takes a turn for the good, if you will. So only death and destruction remained, and what else was I to do? So I did it. With the power of the divine source, I rebooted the Bullet universe in hopes of a different and better world. And that is the end. So, you know, now at the end, right, of the game of Burst to Power, the entire Bullet universe was like reinstated. So Legends Within, Burst to Power, the Overworld, Gate 105, the Power Level Warrior universe, all of that was just redone. You know, she rebooted it in order to make a better world. Now, that obviously allows us to have more games in the future, right? So now, I mean, the story can go anywhere. You know, it's completely redone. which is really interesting. I'm really happy that he did that because now he can take it wherever he wants. Like, Bulit can do whatever he wants. So that's basically the story, man. It's a really actually cool story. There's a lot more lore kind of going on right there than we see, And one other thing here, if I go back into there, if we look at the characters and their bios, we get a little bit more too. So we see what game they appeared in and what universe essentially they appeared in, which is Burst of Power, which, as we know, is the overworld. The Gatekeeper's Apprentice. So that implies that Lord Tweeter was the gatekeeper to the overworld. So obviously we kind of give a breakdown there. And as a gatekeeper, she has the ability to enter worlds of the Bullet universe and recruit heroes. So she can travel between dimensions. If we do Rizzo, we see that he was from the Legends Within universe and everything else like that. So I'm gonna go in depth into their bios when I do like specific character videos. But I mean, there's so much lore. If we look at Arrows, he appeared in, the reissue of the Power Level Warrior, but he appeared first in the Tap Trainer. Eros was born to a clan called the Flame. His mother was a pure-blooded Flames woman, but his father was not. And so that gave him an outcast, sort of thing. I'm going to go into their bio specifically when I do their characters. But yeah, that's basically the entire video here, guys. So really cool, in-depth lore for the game. There's quite a lot here if you really look at it. Lots of things that you would kind of have to infer and also just sort of kind of speculate and guess. But now that the Bullet universe has been rebooted, whatever game he comes out with next can be whatever he wants, which is great. It's a great blank slate to kind of, close out, saying goodbye to his, past projects and now ushering in this new age of, whatever story comes next. So, Burst of Power, great game. Love the gameplay, love the story. And yeah, that's basically it. So if you guys have any questions or if you guys want to comment anything down below, please let me know. Obviously, I'm going to read your comments. If there's anything else that you saw about the story that I missed, comment that down below. If there's anything else that you want me to cover about this game, comment that down below. I am going to do each individual character and sort of do a video on them, but I'm going to do a couple other videos as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and comment down below. Comment down below if I missed anything in the story and if you guys want to see anything else. And yeah, this has been Werewolf ELG, and I'm tuning out. So see you guys later.